Hi, my name is Evan Elliott. I'm with Elliott Home Inspections, Inc. I'm a CPI, that is a Certified Professional Inspector. That certification is through InterNACHI, that's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, whom I'm associated with and a member of. Today we're going to do a drone inspection. Why? Because this roof is steep and the SOP does not mandate that we climb on roofs, and drones are safe. Drones have been now accepted to be the alternative, or in fact the mainstream, for inspecting roofs at all levels of construction, be it commercial or residential. Here we have a roof that's a bit of a challenge if I wanted to walk on it. In fact, it's very steep and I wouldn't recommend anyone go up there without being tied off properly. So with our drone, we'll be able to go up there, get an overview, and at our leisure move in for close-ups for areas that we see that come to our attention that need to be inspected closely. We can capture video, we can capture stills, and with that we can deliver a quality product to our clients. So let's get started. So we've checked our aircraft. We're learning now, but initially there was this idea that drones for civilians, ordinary folks, are just toys to play with, but they're not. They're aircraft, and all the rules that apply to aircraft apply to the drone pilot, and it's serious business. So there are a lot of safety issues to be concerned about. We're not allowed to fly over people or crowds unless we get permission from the FAA, and that's a 90-day wait minimum typically. They request that you put out 3 months out to get that request. Anyway, we don't do that kind of thing. We're not shooting crowds. We're just going to shoot a roof today, and now we're going to put on our propellers. This is a unique Typhoon H Plus drone. I like this one. I like having 6 motors. If a motor fails in flight, this drone will still fly on 5 motors. With a quad drone, if a motor fails in flight, it's going to come straight to the ground. Quad being 4 motors. I do have a quad drone though. It's my backup. Props have limited use. These props, 20 hours flight time. It's important to keep a log. Those 15-20 minute flights add up. And after 20 hours approximately, more or less, replace the props. They do succumb to stress over time. We have our registration labeled on our drone as required by the FAA. It needs to be on the exterior of the drone now. Initially they said you could put it inside, but no longer. Anybody who keeps up with their certification with the FAA, as they should, will know these things. So we're going to position this in our designated takeoff and landing zone. It's a little mushy because of the grass, but that's okay. It's nice to be on the grass on the warmer days. It keeps the equipment from getting hot. A lot of drones have a limited window for operation, typically 32 to 104 thereabouts degrees Fahrenheit. Too hot or too cold, it may not operate properly. It's unsafe and it's not advised by the manufacturers. So today we're looking at about 80 degrees right now. So we just want to be careful we don't get everything too hot, particularly these LiPo batteries, because they're known for bursting into flames, and we can't have that over someone's house. So we keep them cool. To keep them cool, I bring an ice pack, a little cooler in case things get too hot. I can put them in there to cool them down so they don't swell up, burst into flames. Before we take a flight, we have to verify the airspace that we're in. A handy app that's out there is called Air Map. You can also learn about these things at FAA Drone Zone, and they will guide you. But anyhow, we can get to Air Map with a software app that you download to your smartphone, and you turn on Air Map. And we've already done this, and maybe we can get this on the camera and we can see what Air Map looks like here out of the sun. Okay, this is Air Map, and this is when the initial opening of the app, and then one would decide, oh, I'm going to search my address, and we would put in an address, but we're not doing that now. What I'm going to show you is our scheduled flight. We have me, Evan Elliott, and my flights, and right now we're scheduled today between 1 and 5, and we're going to take a look at that. And there's our area, the airspace we're working in. We chose a circle that is a 200-foot radius because we are near Rocky Mountain Airport, and it's not showing it on this, but when I select my flight, it told me when I selected my proposed flight location, it told me that I was within 300 feet of this home that we're going to inspect. So I brought my radius down to 250 so I didn't have to deal with getting air clearance from the airport, because otherwise, outside of that space, which is either a B or C class airspace, we're in E class airspace where we're kind of left to our own devices. E class is unregulated. Well, it's not managed by any particular airport. All airspace is regulated or managed by the FAA. The point to remember is air map. You schedule your flight, you get clearance to be sure. You can know from them whether or not there's any closures in that airspace because of disaster relief issues, safety problems, a presidential thing where his president's in town. You won't be flying your drone near there. Not that day, you'll have to reschedule. There's also NOTAMs, notices to airmen. You can look that up. Same thing, it's a list of things that are going on. For example, if you're in an accident area or a disaster area or a fire area, you'll know if that area is closed or open to drone flights. You don't want to be in violation of the FAA rules. They don't have a sense of humor about this. There's no kidding around. It's very serious business, and we can do it safely and professionally and have a good time. Okay, here we are. And now before we get started today flying a drone, we're going to talk about the options for acquiring one that's suitable for professional home inspectors. When I got into this, I bought this system. As you can see, it's rather elaborate and large. And you can get this for $2,000 or less, but by the time you buy some accessories and a couple more batteries, taxes, etc., you're closer to $3,000. So a couple $1,000s for a setup like this, and other companies it's similar. But you can, and the sky is the limit. You can, if you go commercial and you're doing heavy payloads, guys spend tens of thousands of dollars on those drones if you're doing commercial events, but that's not our interest. That's just a idea of the sky's the limit, kind of a good pun for aviation. And then, but I have another drone that is a Mavic Mini 2, and I picked that up at a large box store. I watched it for about half a year after it came out on the market and read reviews, and it's a great drone. And it weighs half a pound. It's small, it fits in the palm of your hand. It fits in a tiny little satchel. It has 4K resolution. It has features that this does not. It will do a 4x zoom while doing video. It will do 2x zoom for stills, and those stills are 10 or 12 megapixel, as is this aircraft. This is 3 years old, 4 years old now. The technology just keeps leaping along. So you can get in for that drone I was just speaking of, $450, add some accessories, $600, and you're flying, except you're going to have to do your FAA certification, etc. That's a different story. Insurance, licensing, certification rather, that applies to all of us as professionals, whether you're flying a several $100 drone or a several $1,000 drone. But the point being, you can get into this for not too much more money than a couple of good ladders. So our control station's turned on. We have good satellite reception. Don't seem to have any problems. We've checked for air clearance. Now we have to start our drone, which is the second device to start. First you start your control, then you start your drone. With some equipment, it's the opposite. That's coming online. We've got plenty of satellites. Wi-Fi link is reconnected. Current takeoff position recorded. And it's telling us what the settings are here on our panel. I want to check our settings, make sure we didn't bump any switches. Have everything where we want it before we take off. Okay, so now this is our control station. This drone is nice because it has its devoted control panel station that is specific to the drone, rather than a lot of drones which utilize a smartphone. Whether it's an iPhone or a Droid, you have to take that and attach it to some controls that they have, and it integrates into that. So this is good because you have a nice big screen, and I really like it. We're going to go for a movie here. Okay, we're looking good for flight now. So now we're recording. We're clear for takeoff. We've done all our safety checks. We look around, make sure of what's in our area. For example, there's a red-tailed hawk over there. Birds can be a problem. Everything else seems to be okay. No aircraft. And the weather's good, and it's calm with a tiny bit of a breeze. So now I push a button here on this control, and the motors are on. And with 2 joysticks, I control this aircraft. We're going to take off. We're going to test our controls. And we're feeling good about it. We're going to retract our landing gear. And this aircraft has a very variable speed, so that's nice because you can creep in on things without it getting too lurchy, jerky when you try and push your joystick. It'll move nice and smooth and slow. Or you can go to a higher speed and you can really get it to jump. And if that happens and you're near a chimney, it could be bad. So we lower its power a little bit. We're going to take a look at the house. Now we're going to go inspect the roof. Okay, so we're starting here on the south side near the front of the home. You can see when we tip our camera down, there's the front door. So we're going to bring it back up. Let's start right here. I like to just circle around the house. Since we're doing a video, we're just going to move along. I usually do still pictures. And then we have a good shot of the front there. We'll go up a little bit. And that was the lower roof. And we'll get an overview here of the ridge and the plane in general of the roof on either side, east or west. Now I look at my controls and I keep looking up and back down. And if anything, and I'm not sure, I just stop moving, assess my situation, make a decision. For example, if I saw a bird coming my way, I might stop and let the bird go around, or I might drop in anticipation of it coming into my flight path to lower my elevation. Now we're going to move along and take a look here on the west side. You can see we have solar panels. And right now we're just trying to get an overview. So we're going to back off a little bit and get a little higher. And there, now we can get the whole field of view here. And that's a nice shot. So far it's looking good. We have a copper capped roof, copper capped chimney or vent there. From a distance it looks rusty, but it's not. It's copper. And we're going to take a look at this vent stack. And I wanted to find out if it has a cricket. So we're going to back our drone up here and see what's going on down in there. And we can enlarge our imagery on the computer screen. Now what we don't want to do is lose sight of our drone. We're required to keep line of sight. So I find myself walking around with it, and one has to be careful not to bump into things and trip while looking up. Now here we are at the front now, near the little side street here, which is their front street. We'll reposition ourselves again to get a good view. Be aware of the trees that are nearby. And I find it's nice, right now I'm standing directly under the drone, which is rather awkward and uncomfortable. So I like to keep more of an angle view from the ground looking at the drone. Another thing to be keenly aware of is its position and your position relative to the sun, which can quickly deprive you of your view of the drone. Now here you can see we've got a tree in proximity to the roof and the gutters, and that's fine now, but as you know, even now it's a little close to the house. We like to have trees trimmed back 6 feet or so, depending who you talk to. But this one's in contact just about, and it will be eventually. It is potentially a problem causing damage and a place where insects can access the home. Now we're going to come over to this corner. Again, we have trees in proximity to the home. We have to be clear of the trees. We don't want to have a problem ourselves. I want to get down and take a look in the gutters to see if they're already starting to have issues with debris from trees, leaves collecting. And if they do, and even if they don't, we'll recommend that they monitor their gutters for leaves and clean them seasonally. Right now the gutters look good. We could find out from the homeowner if they've cleaned them in the past, but it's really not our business. They're looking good. In time, they may have trouble with these trees, and these folks might just be keeping up with it. Got a little flashing over here that I'm not particularly fond of. We're going to take a look at that right over here. Looks to me that they finished that a little backwards. The flashing is not behind the fascia board. It is not up under the soffit. Looks like it's attached to the surface. Right there, that potentially is a point of water entry. They may want to have that evaluated by a professional roofer. One that doesn't think that's the solution, because somebody did. Right there. Don't like the look of that. As a courtesy, I do not do solar, but I often take a look at people's solar while I'm around. So I'm just going to fly along here, get a little lower, back off a tad, come down. So while we're in the neighborhood, we'll just do a courtesy flyby close of their solar panels. Get just a little higher. As the day warms up, we're getting a little turbulence off the roof. That's something to consider as a pilot. Be ready for that. On the windward sides, you'll get an updraft. On the leeward side, you'll get a downdraft. Now we're going to go down and take a look at the way they've treated this flashing on this, what apparently is a roof vent. I've lowered my power, so my maneuver commands are slower. Got a little wind picking up. That's no problem for us. Let's see what we've got here. What you can tell right now is the drone's getting bumped around a little by the thermals. There's heat coming off that roof, creating a little shear right here at where the wall rises up. There, now we have some good imagery of that. So now we're looking here at the back of the house. Just want to check my controls here. Looks like we've been flying and recording for 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Take a look at my battery. I'm down to 80%. Typically you get about 20 minutes on average drone battery or drone. You don't want to get too low. This drone will land itself. It may not land exactly where you took off. It's supposed to land close though, but that's a hazard. You want to land it manually, not automatically. So here we have another look at the house. Go up a little higher. Stay away from the neighbors. Another thing I like to do is, the best I can, stay within the property line of the home I'm inspecting. People do get a little nervous, potentially. Other folks come out, they're very interested in what you're doing. Again, it's important to focus on your flying, not get distracted by a neighbor who wants to talk with you. What we're going to do now is we're going to drop down in a little, get a better view. We're looking straight down on this. This is the roof over the garage. We're going to get nice and close. Take a look. And you can tell the field's looking very good. A lot of this is revealed better once it gets back to the office and take a look on it. Take a look at it on the big screen. And we're just going to move along here just a little bit. Take a look at that ridge line. You can see that it's a vented ridge line. And we're going to stop for a second. I'm starting to lose sight of the drone. So what I'm going to do now is go up, hold my position, let it idle, you might say, and I'm going to walk back around to the front of the house because we're going to bring it up that side and back out the front. And while it's parked up there, you might say, I can see it completely. Nothing's obstructing my view. We're allowed to lose sight of it for a moment if we have to go around something, but flying blind is not okay. You cannot use your drone to navigate. You have to see it and use the camera together. So typically when I'm doing a home like this, I can shoot the whole house with one battery, 15-20 minutes. So my entire inspection might take me 45 minutes. I like to catch a lot of stills. I find the video is very impressive and useful, but generally it's a lot to upload, download, and people don't necessarily have the patience for it. I think they just want to see some pictures. They have problems with their roof. Let's say, oh, I see something there. Not really right now, but I can get down and I can take a look at what's going on with those vents. Come down lower, I'm keeping an eye on it. I might be 6 feet off the roof right now, and that's pretty good. Today's not too hot. And another thing to keep aware of is thermals. If this was a really hot day and there was a little wind, we'd be dealing with some bump on our aircraft. The closer I get to a hot roof, the more updraft there is, and there are dynamic air currents And in that case, I wouldn't want to get too close to anything, because before I can correct my flight, those unpredictable air currents could bump my drone into the roof or a stack or a chimney, and it's not good for anybody, especially the drone. I can see these shingles are asphalt shingles. Sometimes people don't know what this is on their roof. The job I did just last week, the client was wondering what he was seeing on his roof from the ground, and it was a high house, so with my drone, without having to use a ladder, I was able to get up there, move in on the object. I suspected it might be what this is. This is your roofer's tie-off. It's a safety plate that's nailed into the framing, and they tie off their ropes that are attached to a body harness so they don't fall and get harmed or worse. That's supposed to be there. It's useful for maintenance and repairs when a professional roofer comes out. Again, we're looking at this nice long ridge line for the ventilation on the gable end over here at the front of the house, and I believe on the back end we have some vents coming in on the gable. And if we looked at the eaves, we aren't right now, they may have soffit vents also. It's important that roofs stay cool. That's why attics need ventilation. Okay, we're in good shape. The wind's picked up a little, not much, a few miles an hour. It's important to stay aware of that. Keep an eye on the weather, just like you keep an eye on everything around you. We're going to go over here to the east side, take a look here. I want to check out this vent stack. Seems to be leaning. I don't like when stacks are leaning, so we're going to go over and take a look at that boot. We'll get as close as we can safely. And there it is. And you can see some wrinkles in the rubber boot. Let's see if we can get a little closer. Let's just come around and take a look at that. Get a look at it from above. Doesn't look too bad. It's just showing its age. We want to stay up off the roof a little more, because as it's getting warm there, it's bumping our aircraft around. But with the rippling in the boot there, I'm going to suggest they monitor that for potential problems in the future. Perhaps have a contractor check if that pipe is properly mounted, given that it's leaning as so much towards the east. We'll take a quick view of that. So get a sense of what I'm talking about. We'll come down to it and look straight in on it. Here we can see that that pipe is leaning. Well, that's enough on that one. Let's see what else we can find over here. Let's take a look at this curling shingle right there. That shingle is lifting right there at the end of the fascia board where it meets the roof. We're going to recommend they have that looked at. Maybe the last thing we'll do is take a look at the gutters again. Get a little elevation because we're in a tight space in here, so we have maneuverability to correct any errors in the pilot or consequence of the wind. And we're just going to fly sideways here and just take a look at what's going on with their gutters. Now, these gutters are only about 10 feet off the ground, so they can be looked at from the ground. But in this case, we can get a good line on them with the drone. And the gutters are looking very good. Don't see any bends, dents. All the fasteners are in place, best I can tell. And now we've circled the entire roof. Sometimes, for example, you think you'll see a problem, and in this case we have droppings. You can see those white spots on the ridge right here. We'll get in real close there and take a look. That's from birds perching up there. Take a look down right there. That's bird droppings. And if we back off a little bit, come down a bit, you can see that over the front porch roof we have the same issue, more bird droppings. That's something you can identify for your client. They say, what's that up there? You say, well, you have birds, if they hadn't already noticed, roosting on your house. We like to take a look at things like the flashing here, for example. Looks like we have good flashing. The siding is stopped an inch above the roof line. You can see that they have nailed shingles for the last course there with caulk on them. I would advise my client to monitor and maintain as necessary. It's not ideal, but you see it more often than not, and the caulk can dry and crack, and that can be a potential leak down the line. All one has to do is get up there now and then, or have a professional do it for you, and caulk those nail heads. One last thing I like to do is give people a full view of the home in one shot. So we're going to go up, not past our current elevation limit relative to our ceiling nearby because of an airport, which is a potential issue. When you are near an airport, I've noticed some private pilots are hot dogging it and they will fly below legal space for themselves, so it's our job to stay out of their way if they're flying lower than they should. And there's a good view of the home. Take a look at that. And it really gives a sense of where the things are that we were discussing. And let's just go a little higher. Right now we're up at only 100 feet. And you can see all of that from just 100 feet off the ground. We're catching the street, the neighbors a little. Nice shot. Now we're going to come back down. You see we're zooming right in, but it's not a lens zoom. We're zooming flying right on down in. We're 54 feet off the ground. Now we're about 10 feet off the roof. All right, so we've looked at the roof in its entirety. I think it's time for us to put her back down on the ground. So now what we're looking at is we've been up in the air for 11 minutes, and looks like our battery's getting down to 46%. And the light on here that said green for safe is now yellow for the battery charge, which means if you're any distance from your landing zone, you need to start thinking about coming back soon. This drone, for example, it starts to drop fast on these batteries, and in a couple of minutes it'll be in the 30s. Just went to 44 from 46 while I was talking here, and then it drops even faster. And once it gets into the mid upper 20s, take control of itself and automatically return and land. And as I was saying earlier, there's no guarantee that that's going to land exactly where you took off. And in these tight residential spaces, we don't want to land in a 20-some foot guest zone. We want to land right on the spot where we took off. So we're going to come back because we don't have to push it. We have extra batteries and safety is paramount. So you can see with this drone, I'm going to drop my landing gear. A lot of drones have fixed gear, or none really to speak of, depending on their design. This one's got a camera that's hanging below rather than directly out the front of the body of the fuselage of the drone. So here we are. Come on down, center it up. And I find I like to put my power up high. Sometimes when I'm trying to land my drone and if I have some gusty winds going on, this drone can fly in up to 30 miles an hour. But you cannot land this because when it gets to the ground, as it gives up its power, it will just tumble over in the wind. So I prefer to fly on the low wind days. Mornings are better here in the West because it's typically windier in the afternoon. And we'll just get close, and then we're gonna do what I call stick it. That means push the stick all the way down firmly, plant it to the ground, just like with a real airplane. Once you're on the tarmac, stick it to the tarmac. Don't let it bounce along. Well, that concludes our drone roof home inspection. I'm Evan Elliott with Elliott Home Inspections. Thanks for watching.